Okay, sorry for that delay. I didn't know I was recording. So this is going to help you review for the exponent rules properties, either for your quiz retake or for the tests that we'll have in quarter 4. So basic things about the rules in general. So if the product rule basically said if they have the same bases, you just add the exponents. 5 plus 3 is 8. Quotient rule said if they have the same bases and you're dividing, just subtract the exponents. 9 minus 5 is x to the 4th. Power to a power rule, so you just multiply m times n, which in this case 3 times 4 is 12. Then we talked about the negative exponent rule. Basically says if you have a negative exponent, you have an assumed 1 as a fraction, and then you just bring it down to the bottom and make it positive. So it crosses the line, changes the sign, and becomes positive here. So if you look, x to the negative 3 is 1 over x to the positive 3. If it was at the bottom and it was already negative, like right here, it would come up to the top and become positive. So do the opposite, as you can see here. You also learn that anything to the power of 0 is just 1. So like that to the power of 0 is 1. 15 to the 0 is 1. Negative 5 to the 0 is 1. 384 to the 0 is equal to 1. Then we have the issue with positive negative numbers raised to an exponent. So basically we learned that right here, if it's a negative 1 to the 6th power and there's no parentheses, just imagine that as 1 to the 6th, which is just 1, and then the negative doesn't count because there's no parentheses, so you just have to put it at the end as negative 1. But if you do have it in parentheses, now all of a sudden it's really like this: negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1, 6 different times. So when you do that, you'll end up negative times a negative times a negative, all the way 6 times is back to a positive 1. Here, same thing, negative 2 to the 4th power with no parentheses, negative 16, but negative 2 in parentheses to the 4th power is positive 16. Let's say you had negative 5 to the 3rd power. That's negative 125. But say you had negative 5 to the 3rd power. That's still negative 125. Because if you think about it, that's negative 5 parentheses, negative 5, negative 5. Negative times a negative is positive 25. Times another negative 5 is negative 125. And in this example, sorry, I'll bring that down so you can pause and see it. In this example, you're just doing 5 to the 3rd, which is 125, and then putting the negative after because there's no parentheses, but they both are the same thing. So when it's odd, when the exponent is odd and there's a negative involved, it always will be negative. If the exponent's even and there's no parentheses, but there's a negative out there, it's going to be negative. But if it's an exponent's even and there is parentheses, it's going to be a positive. So that's the first video, just going back over the rules. Now I'll give you a bunch of examples similar to the quiz and hopefully the next test.